How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of On the Hook. This week, we're going to be doing a quick service on the spinning reel. Now, if you haven't already watched the other video I filmed a couple weeks ago on the casting reel, that would be a great intro to get all the information, kind of the ground information that you need before tackling this one. And a disclaimer, spinning reels are advanced and they take a lot more mechanical knowledge and technique to service, but today I want to take you through, just like I did with the casting reel a couple weeks ago, some really simple things you can do without taking the entire reel apart to get a pretty good service on it. Now, you're not going to get everything, but if you keep up with it on a regular basis, it's going to be a whole lot better than doing nothing. Okay, so before we get started, a couple of the tools that you're going to need to tackle the spinning reel. I've got my Abu Garcia service kit, like I showed you in the video before. It's got the degreaser for cleaning parts. It's got grease in it, oil, some screwdriver. For the spinning reel as well, you're also going to need, at least for the Revo reels, you're going to need an Allen wrench, and a flathead screwdriver, as well as a Phillips screwdriver. Toothbrush is great for cleaning parts. Goes along well with that degreaser. You hit it with a little degreaser and you can scrub the part pretty clean with this. Small Q-tips for getting into tight areas, removing dirt and grease, also really good to have. First thing you always want to do with the spinning reel is take off the handle, and you're going to pull the handle back towards you to remove it and pull it all the way off. Now, some spinning reels have a knob over on this side that you remove and then pull the handle straight out. The more expensive spinning reels are threaded on, so you thread it on by going forward, you pull it back towards you to take it off, which makes sense because when you're using the reel, you don't want the handle to be coming off. So always back towards you, comes right off. Next thing I always do is I take off the spool, remove the drag knob all the way, pull the spool straight up. Now, more expensive spinning reels, again, are going to have some bearings up in here. It really helps with the operation of the brake. So with this whole packet, I like to pull the whole thing off in one go, if I can here, and set it all down in a stack. That way I know exactly how it's going to go back together. You'll see on the top here, we've got lock ring that locks the nut on top of the spool. We're going to remove the screw that holds the lock ring on. And we'll set that off to the side, pull off the lock ring, and set that off to the side. That comes right off. And then we can pull the spool straight up and off. Always look underneath and see if there's an adjustment washer there. That's very important that that goes back in. And this is something we'll see with spinning reels in general. They're very precise machines, so there's a lot of small adjustment washers that are actually unique to that reel based on the manufacturing batch. So they will actually tune these reels in the factory to be perfectly aligned. So it's very important that that's going to go back underneath there. So we'll do it just like that so we know. So now we're down to the basic body of the reel. You can see here. At this point, I always like to examine this bearing that's right at the top of the pinion here. If you're going to have water damage in this reel, it's most likely going to be right here. So take a good look and make sure that this is nice and clean. If you see a lot of corrosion or buildup in here, we might need to take the next step to pull this pinion out and examine the instant anti-reverse bearing and the two bearings that are in here. A lot of times if your reel is making a lot of noise, like a shh sound, it's going to be this bearing right here. Now you might ask, well, what if I need a new bearing? How do I do that? The easiest thing to do would be go to the website of the manufacturer of the reel. In this case, it would be abugarcia.eu or .com. Scroll down to the bottom of their website and they usually have a contact us button down on the bottom. Click that, and most of the time you're going to find a number for a service center closest to you. You can write them a quick email, let them know the part you need, and a lot of times they'll be able to send you that part, and you can just pop it right back in, and your reel is going to be as good as new. I want to show you really quick how we take this pinion out and a few things to look out for when you do take this pinion out. First thing you're going to see, there's 3 screws here on top. We're going to pop those out. Take those out and set them to the side. We'll take this off here. Now, we've removed the retention plate on the pinion. We can just take the pinion now and jiggle it slightly and pull it straight up. If you've had a lot of water in your reel, this could be difficult to do. And so just give it a little bit of a jiggle. And a lot of times, even if it's really hard to remove, I've seen this before, I'll take this little nut, put it back on there, and grab my pliers underneath there and kind of pry it gently against the reel body, and that'll allow you to pull it up more times than not. Just a quick little tip there. You can also take a pair of tweezers in there on both sides and kind of pry it up that way. If you've been wade fishing a lot, chances are that some water has gotten in here, which is another reason, you know, especially if you're wade fishing a lot, servicing your spinning reel is a must, really. Pull the whole pinion straight up. We'll take the reel body off. So you can see what we got here is our pinion gear. The gearing's down here. We have a bearing here and a bearing up here with a little sleeve on it. And then right here, this is our instant anti-reverse bearing. Always good to check this one. If we've come this far, let's take a look at the inside of that bearing to make sure we don't have any corrosion in there or any salt buildup in there. So take off the top. Always be looking for adjustment washers and make sure that they're going back in where you found them at any step when you're disassembling a spinning reel. There's our instant anti-reverse. And here's our bottom bearing. So, instant anti-reverse bearing. There's a bunch of small little roller bearings inside of here which allow it to spin one way and lock the other. You can pull this sleeve out and I can show you the inside of that, what that looks like. Those little needle bearings are designed to spin one way but lock when this bushing goes back against it. Take a paper towel, a little degreaser, clean that out really good, and you can go back in with just a little bit of, just a small amount of grease. If you put too much grease in here, it's gonna fail. It's gonna clog it up. So just a little bit of grease in there. You can even thin it out with a tiny bit of oil. And then even after you've done that, get them all lubricated really well and then dry it all out. There'll still be enough in there for a smooth operation. I can't stress it enough. If you put too much lubrication in here, it's not gonna work. Another important thing is we need to make sure that this is gonna go back in the correct way that it came out. See, if we flip this over and put it in, the reel's not gonna turn at all because it's gonna lock as soon as you try and operate the reel. So it needs to go back in the same way it came out. Now we can go into the main gear and the bearings. Another area of concern a lot of times with spinning reels is right here on the handle side where the handle goes into the reel. You can see there's a small bearing in there as well. That's another area that water can penetrate into the reel and foul this bearing. So bearing noise a lot of times can come from this top bearing or it can come from this handle side bearing. You can see the other side is sealed, so water's not going to get in that side. Revo reels are really nice in that they're designed so we can remove this back plate here and access a lot of the internals of the reel. We're not going to be able to get to everything, but we can get to a lot of it. So in order to pull off this back plate, we just have a screw up here that's removed, a screw right here that's removed. What we can do now is we can just pull off this back plate. Nice and easy. And now we have the internals of the reel. We have our main gear here, and we have an idler gear right there. There's several gears in here that work in conjunction with each other to do several things. They're going to turn the pinion gear, and they're also going to move this carrier up and down to oscillate the spool up and down. Lots of things can go wrong if you start to disassemble this part of the reel. There's a lot of adjustment washers that are very specific to each reel. They're going to hold this main gear precisely in the right location to have just down to a hundredths of a millimeter tolerance with this pinion gear. So for the average person, I definitely don't recommend starting to disassemble this area of the reel. For today, I can show you a quick way to kind of get some of this stuff clear. We have two pins that are going to hold this carrier in. They just pull right out. And you can see they're different sizes, so make sure that they're going back in how they came out. And then this carrier, it can just pull straight out as well. Now already we've given ourselves a lot more room to work with. We can now clean up this carrier, go back in with fresh grease, and remove any old grease, dirt, and residue there. And we've got a really good look at the inside of the reel here as well. That's where these Q-tips really come in handy. You can go in and just really start to clean up old grease. You can spin this and pull out all the old grease. This is going to take a little bit of time, and the more time you take, the better the performance of the reel is going to be, especially if this has never been done and you have an older reel. Definitely a good idea to do. After we've cleaned all these gears and gone in with fresh grease, and once again, too much grease is going to slow your reel down and it's not going to do anything for the reel. Too much grease is just going to work its way out into all these other empty cavities of the reel and be completely worthless. With gears, you only want to fill in. You only want to fill in between the teeth, no more, and go light. A little bit here as well. You can even put a dab on and roll it around. Then it will transfer to the other gears. See, this reel is new from the factory, and this is how much grease it comes new from the factory. So that's can give you an idea of how much grease is really needed. So at this point, we can also lubricate our bearings. Just a drop of oil here on the handle side. And I mean it, just a drop of oil, that's enough. Too much is gonna start to make the noise. We can go to the other side as well here. Remove this little plate. And put a drop of oil right there. The key is clean old oil, dirt, and grease from the inside of the reel and put in fresh. That's basically what we're doing anytime we're gonna service a reel. So now we can go back and reassemble our reel. We're gonna take the same steps that we took to disassemble it as reassembly. So that means we're gonna start here, the last piece that I pulled out. Like I said, I can't stress it enough with spinning reels. Be really careful of all the small parts and pieces and make sure that they're going back in the way they came out. Even one small mistake is gonna make your reel not operate well. I don't wanna say that to scare people away from working on the spinning reels, but I think if you really take your time, go slow, it'll be okay. Also, you can download an exploded diagram for your reel, and the reels also from the box, they come with an exploded diagram, and that's going to show all the location of all the various small parts and pieces for the reel. Put our spool back on. Okay, so now that we got that all put back together, let's see how we did. Not too shabby. Put in the comments below any questions you have, any problems you're experiencing with your reels. I'll be happy to answer them or get you in contact with the appropriate service center. A lot of times that's the best thing to do. You can just write them a quick email. But yeah, there's a spinning reel for you. Like I said, use caution, go slow. A diagram is be a good friend of yours in this situation. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.